Good morning to our live broadcast. And oh yes, wave, our people, that live audience wave. Yep, here we all are. We got panels. Welcome. We'll give folks a minute to join. So great to see everybody both in person and on Zoom. On Zoom, can you hear us? All right. And look, everyone's got their camera on today. What a special day here at the 9:30 call. We hear lots of stories where people listen to the 9:30 call. So it's great to see everybody in person. We are so happy to be in Worcester for this special day. We have been celebrating the 9:30 call all week. And so we want you to share a memory or a moment or a word or a feeling that comes to mind when you think about the 9:30 call. Who was your favorite guest? Share one thing that you've learned on the 9:30 call. Name one person that you connected with or met on the 9:30 call. If the group wanted to create a community like the 9:30 call, what advice would you give? And why do you keep coming to the 9:30 call? So let's start with that. Why do you keep coming to the 9:30 call, live or in chat?
Our home to know what's going on in the field.
Hub and home. Marissa, can you read out chat when we get there? Resources. All right. Information, hope, community.
Don't want to miss anything.
Don't want FOMO. No FOMO here on the 9:30 call. That's it. We are going to welcome us to Worcester, State Senator Robyn Kennedy. So please give it up for Robyn Kennedy, our senator from Worcester.
It's so wonderful to be with you all here today, particularly in the heart of the Commonwealth. So certainly, first and foremost, welcome to Worcester. So glad to have everyone here and have us. Yes, I love that Worcester energy. And so glad to be with so many of our friends here. As I'm looking at the screen, I see Commissioner Kershaw's joined us. I see Chair of the EEC Board, my friend Paul Belcito's here, Tom Weber, former commissioner. So many people to shout out. So it's so great to be with you all. And I think now I've actually joined the 9:30 call more now since I actually had the opportunity to directly join in my past life as the COO at the YWCA, and but really understand the core value of this call. And for me, being with my EEC providers is really about being at home. This is where I came from, having spent the last 5 years right across the street at the YWCA and really getting to work with, I think, the best team of early educators, but I know there's a lot of incredible early educators here and across the Commonwealth. And, you know, I often say this as we talk about early education and care and really the transition over the last several years. To me, that the pandemic really changed the game for early ed. We went from fighting for advocacy, fighting to be able to elevate our voices, to make the world recognize how critical early education and care is, how important it is to workforce development, to our economy, and importantly, and we can never lose sight, and I know you all know, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, it's not just about care for families. It's about making sure that every single child in our community has that equal access, that's right, to a strong academic start. And that begins with the curriculum in the infant rooms. And I know and saw firsthand the curriculum that gets implemented in our infant rooms and is really brought up and helps every young kid that has access to early education and care really start their K through 12 academic career on a strong footing. And so while we want to make sure every family has access to quality care, we also want to make sure that every single child has access to that same early education start. And it's so interesting, and I know you all, again, feel the same way, but it always struck me and continues to strike me how there was this magical word that appeared all of a sudden that the whole world started saying during the pandemic, and that's essential, right? We know early education care has always been essential, but in 2020, the whole world woke up to that. And then the world woke up to really valuing our early education and care providers. You know, I always say there was so many thank yous. There's a lot of clapping. There were a lot of hot meals delivered, a lot of gifts from our providers and partners. And that's a really incredible and important thing that we started to show value. You know, it was those darkest days. I remember sitting in a room when the governor was starting to talk about what the impact meant here. And we're, as a collaboration here among some of our Worcester providers, talking about, okay, how are we going to respond if we go to an emergency model of care? How are we going to tell our families? that you're not able to come back on the next week. And we're going to have new families coming in. How are we going to talk to our educators about what it means that now you're going to be serving the children of some of our medical professionals and that are in the hospitals dealing with this on the front line, and you're going to be serving and caring for their children. And I remember sitting in a room with our incredible team, Darlene Beliveau, who I'm not sure if she's online, but I don't see her in the room here today, so I'll have to reach out to her. But Darlene Beliveau, who's an incredible early ed champion, and for so many years, and with so many, again, of our other providers here that stepped up and said, let's collaborate, let's figure out together how to create this little system here. We know how we have some major hospitals right here in Worcester, and we need to be able to care for our community. Let's figure this out. And we really, again, like so many here, transitioned, never closed for a day, closed on a Friday with our traditional program, opened up on Monday with the emergency, and in a true collaboration, as we often do as providers, true collaboration amongst agencies of who's serving which children, how we're going to align resources and make sure that we're going in with the same agreement on rates so that there's not a competition created amongst us in this moment, that we're actually working together. And then we saw the 9:30 call start. And I remember the gratitude I heard from Darlene. I remember joining some of those early calls and the gratitude we heard of just being able to share some research. We didn't know resources. We didn't know what PPE is. We didn't know we should be wearing masks in those early days, or dividers on lunch tables so that preschoolers could eat together and not risk infecting each other, or understanding how to create classrooms that let kids play, but play safely and in separated spaces. And so being able to share that resource was incredibly comforting and incredibly reassuring. But when I think of the 9:30 call, I really think about really elevating us from collaboration, because again, as providers, I know that collaboration is key to survival, right? No provider can do anything alone. So we're really good at collaborating. But for me, what the 9:30 call really did was take us from collaboration to power building, right? It was about going from who has PPE, how do we share it, to making sure that our early education and care providers were at the front of the line when the vaccine became available, and that they were amongst the first to be receiving the vaccine, as they should, as they continue to be on the front line. It was about making sure that the C3 grants were great, because we had ARPA funding to make sure that the C3 grants were there and that the providers were able to access that so that we could purchase things like PPE, purchase things like dividers, extra toys, so that kids, again, could be able to be spread out. But the 9:30 call brought it from the collaboration and the shared resource and advocacy there to making sure that C3 is part of a state investment to the tune of $475 million. And I know, and to all the providers, that it's actually annualized so that you can count on it. You can build it into your rates, build it into what you pay your educators, because we know bonuses were great. And again, coming from the provider perspective, certainly appreciated having the opportunity to provide bonuses. But you can't pay your rent on bonuses. You can't buy a new car that you need to buy, guessing that there may be a bonus down the line. So I understood and heard how important that, making sure that we annualized it and made sure that we put the investment in. And I got a sneak peek as we were putting up the slides that, certainly Senator Jason Lewis, the Senate Chair of Education in the Senate, in the legislature, I know with the commissioner that there is the commitment to ensure that we are continuing those investments in the years ahead. So I'm incredibly, as always, grateful. Like I said, it feels like every time I get to join my early education and care providers, so wonderful to do so in person with so many. And of course, the beautiful faces I see here on the screen in online, but to be able to be with you. And again, to continue to elevate and work with you to continue to elevate that advocacy. It's why the very first speech I gave in the Senate was around ensuring that investment in those C3 grants. I carry with me every single day what I saw and what I heard, the best of days. And we certainly have a lot of the best of the days. Every time we see an educator that helps that young person learn their next skill, those are the best of the days, to really some of the hardest days that we went through together. I carry that with me every day that I'm in the legislature, and I'm going to continue to make sure that your voices, not that I'm just representing your voices, but that your voices are centered in the work that we continue to do. So thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here as always.
Yeah, there's a lot of reflections about the 9:30 call. We have a couple watch parties that have joined. We have Commissioner Kershaw and the entire EEC team that's here today. Saw Senator Domenico joined a few minutes ago. A lot of 9:30 callers from the past year, the past 5 years that have joined.
Good morning, 9:30 callers in Worcester and online. You heard a lot from me yesterday, so I just want to say thank you again. Happy anniversary. Coming back to EEC, I think we've really been committed to trying to figure out how to move transformation in partnership with those who are doing the work or impacted by any changes that we are working on in partnership with our legislative colleagues and the administration. And the 9:30 call has enabled that in a completely different way for us. So our commitment to being able to move things forward based on the voices and the experience of those who are doing the work comes to life being part of the 9:30 call. And Amy and Marissa and your team, not only is it just this moment, but you have built a cadre of informed and organized and talented leaders and advocates who are bringing their voice to change. And it's creating just a greater level of investment, knowledge, professionalization, and elevating the field. So I am incredibly grateful for your partnership and the work that you've done here, what you've created.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Marissa, and thank you to everyone else out here who's been along for this journey for so many years now, and it doesn't feel like it's been 5 years, but it has. I just wanted to just say thank you to all of you. You know how I feel about early education and care. You know how I feel about school time, after school programming, all the things that you guys do, and you do well. And you are part of Team Domenico. You were actually the first priority we had at the state senate 15 years ago when we first got involved in this area, and in large part because of my chief of staff, Christy Young, as well, who is well known to all of you on this call, and my partner in all this work. But obviously, it came from it when also my own two boys have early education experience. I'm a Head Start kid myself, and I know how important it is and how important it is to get all of our kids that opportunity and access to what is critical. And we know now, and we knew then, a critical indicator of success going forward. So this call in particular has really transformed advocacy. We know the attention that's been placed on this issue now is much different than it was 5 years ago, much different than it was even 4 years ago or 6 years ago. This call here in particular has brought everybody together with a common goal, a focus of bringing together advocates and educators and providers and families and people in the field who are really care about this issue to advance it at the State House and create policy and get policy actually across the finish line. So not just talking about doing all the great things that we want to do, but actually doing it and getting the funding behind it. As Robyn Kennedy said, the investments that we've made are a direct result of all of you. At the State House, we advocate, but the outside forces are what make things happen. That's how things happen at the State House. So you want to take me no for an answer anymore? No more access and quality conversations. Now we do both. We do everything. I'm old when it comes to that terminology. I know we don't use that as much anymore, but that's how I first started with access and quality. Pick one. And now we do so many good things in that realm. So your advocacy is going to keep that going. And the people, and I'll end with this, the people that you're fighting for, the people that you care about, are not going to know your names, but they're going to know someone that actually cared. They don't have time or the energy or the resources to advocate for themselves sometimes because they're fighting just to stay above water, and they don't even know where to turn. So your work and what you're doing and your voices make a difference in people's lives every single day, and we appreciate that.
And Amy, we were just joined by Rep. Christine Barber as well. And then after that, we have a couple watch parties that have joined the 9:30 call. So if we want to say hi to Rep. Barber, and then we can turn it over to some of the watch parties if that works.
Good morning, everyone. Rep. Christine Barber, congratulations on 5 years. Really, I want to echo what the senator and commissioner and others have said. Your advocacy is incredible. To think back of where we were 5 years ago and what a scary time that was for all of you, for families all over the Commonwealth, and the work that you have done to uplift and really make this work sustainable and so much stronger is such a testament to just your work and your ability to come together in this way. So I'm really grateful for all of you, and looking forward to continuing the work with you. So thank you to all of our leaders.
And all right, watch parties. I'm not sure how we're gonna do this, so maybe just if you can raise your Zoom hand so I can find you quickly, and then I'll try and spotlight everyone all at once.
Hello, Sheila. And the 413, the 617, we're all here. And now we just want to remember the 4th year anniversary where we had our record-breaking attendance with Governor Maura Healey, who joined us last year. And so we do have a video. Let's be another test of technology.
The pandemic really brought needs of the childcare sector into full focus. The 930 call was such a helpful tool that got our state through those first few weeks. Importantly, Strategies for Children recognize the potential of bringing together providers, advocates, and policymakers, and kept it up. This is a way people learn from one another, connect one another, figure out together how we can set up more kids for success. I'm proud of the progress that we've been able to make on childcare and early ed in our state. Massachusetts is the only state to fully replace pandemic-era support with state funds. We've saved those seats and added thousands more. Providers and early educators are being paid more and aren't stretched as thin. Just the other day, our task force on early ed and childcare released a report on how we can make it more affordable, more accessible. I'm excited to dive into those recommendations with you and work to strengthen this sector even more. Congratulations on 5 years. Thank you for all that you do.
Grateful to Minna Jung, who wrote the case study and took kind of 4 years of history and synthesized it down. And so this is a quote that was from the case study, but really thinking about this authentic, inclusive community. And we've heard a lot of these themes about getting good information, but what we sometimes forget and what we saw as we reviewed getting ready for the 4th and now the 5th year is really, as Senator Kennedy talked about, what it felt like 5 years ago to be kind of sitting alone in our houses, trying to figure out how we were going to save childcare. And that maybe sounded dramatic at the time, but we know that that is not being dramatic. And we know now we are seeing the benefits and back. So these were the key takeaways, that consistency is critical, right? We had it 5 days a week. Now we are down to 4 days a week. We have a fast fact about that. Inclusivity and lack of hierarchy should be foundational principles for creating and maintaining the community. So it was, the sharing the mic, the who's talking. Ron Dorsey did have a joke that when I'm not here and Titus and Marissa hosted, that's how Jay Leno got his job because he was guest hosting. So Ron told me to watch my back, and I'll thank the team at the end. But I get to be the host. But we know, as you can see live and real, that our team is such an incredible part of the consistency in the community. Not just anyone or any organization can start and sustain an authentic community like the 930 call. So really thinking about it, we'll talk later. We've heard from other states, they are creating it, they are working to create it, but that's not about us, that's about you, showing up every day, taking risks and being with us. And then creating a community like the 930 call requires explicit intention in creating and maintaining norms and ongoing attention to the interests of community members. And we have seen this evolve over time. We debated how you socially distance 3-year-olds, how often you should wash Unifix cubes. We've talked about poop and diarrhea and COVID symptoms. So really, but that's been the kind of the norms of the group. So speaking of COVID and testing, we're going to hear from a 930 call maven, Beena Patel.
Has it really been 5 years of the 930 call? Congratulations to the team. This is such an incredible milestone. I really can't believe that 5 years has gone by so quickly, but also that this didn't exist until just 5 years ago. How would I describe the 930 call? The word that comes to mind is community. It's really an incredible community. Every day at 9:30, you know they're there. You know you can tune in if you can, and if you can't, you know they're going to be there the next day and the next week. It's that constant that we all need. And my hope for the field when I think ahead to early childhood is that we continue to remain in this community. We continue to remain partners and collaborative and work together towards that vision and towards that eventual goal that we all have. So I'm really, really grateful for the team and for all you have done and for creating this community for us. And congratulations on 5 years.
By the numbers. So we have been tracking the 9:30 call. We have a very fancy spreadsheet that I put in the number 4 or 3, how many calls we have that week. As of today, we hit 1,930 calls in the morning, only in the morning. We have 9:30 calls. We have the 9:30 call in the morning. We have the 9:30 call at night. And we have the 9:30 call on Espanol. And we have one of the hosts with us, Carol Blanco. 54 seconds is the time that it took me to upgrade our Zoom account with 99 people on the call and 2 people in the waiting room. And this was in 2020. We had Commissioner Sam in the waiting room to come on, and we had 99 people. And we had like the intro Zoom version. So I saw she was in the waiting room, and I was like, oh God. So I literally went, upgraded our Zoom, paid for 500 people, and effortlessly just let those 2 people into the, that was the first time we broke 100, but I did do that. 2,266 are the number of people subscribed to the 9:30 call list. So help us grow this list. We really want to think about how we're segmenting communications. We often are also sending to our full list of over 8,000 people, but 9:30 call emails have our highest click rate, our highest open rate. So we know that people, because we're sending the schedule. 1 is the number of case studies written on the call, and 25 is the number of people needed to be in the waiting room before I let anybody in. And then some of the key dates. So our first 9:30 call was actually Thursday, March 18th, 2020. And it was a small group. I see Lucas is here. Kim Dion is here. It was the group of us that advocated on Advocacy Day together. So it was kind of the people we had been working with over the year because we just weren't sure. And Kate Marie Roycroft from the YMCA's actually had the first Zoom link. Titus took it over, and because we got our Zoom account, and Titus created a calendar invite that said it was like 9:30 call, early childhood check-in for COVID. And so that was our calendar invite that we maintained for a long time. June 5th, 2020 was after the murder of George Floyd. And on the 9:30 call together, we created and released a collective statement on racial justice. And we had organizations sign on that. It's still available. We have talked about, revisiting that in this kind of where we are living in this world today. July 9th, 2021 was the last day we did the call 5 days a week. And we had a big discussion about, do we stop? What day do we stop? So we picked Friday. And we say that it feels like a vacation when we don't have the 9:30 call on Fridays. March 24th was the first 9:30 call in Espanol. And then March 18th, Governor Maura Healey joined the 9:30 call to celebrate our 4th anniversary with 423 people.
Greetings, everyone. This is Pat Tutwiler, Secretary of Education, joining in celebration of 5 years of the 9:30 a.m. call. I have to admit that I first became aware of the 9:30 call during the throes of the pandemic when I was superintendent in Lynn. And I remember quite vividly the providers in Lynn talking about how important this call was, how helpful it was, and substantively how it created a sense of community. And now here we are 5 years later, and still the same success can be elevated. There's an old adage that says that coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, working together is success. I believe deeply that this platform has created an incredible vehicle for working together. Here's to Amy O'Leary and our friends at Strategies for Children. Continued success.
Impact. You heard about this from Senator Kennedy. Titus just figured this out. More than $1.5 billion invested in high quality early education and care compared to the pre-pandemic FY20 funding levels. The FY25 budget represents an increase of $850 million or 127%. We've had 3 classes of first-year legislators join the call. And then there was always a constituent on the call. It was much more effective than me kind of as a paid lobbyist walking around the bullpen. And it's been really interesting, kind of, I think, as we've gotten further out from the pandemic, we are having a harder time connecting with first-year legislators now. So the ones who have been on are like, tell us who needs to come. We're going to tell them to come. We also had many babies and puppies were first introduced on the 9:30 call. We had, I know Brian Gold had baby Mira, Michelle Hamowitz had her baby, Kate Marie had some babies. And we also know that I remember Rep Vargas had his new puppy joining us in the 9:30 call, and it was very distracting as we were talking about serious things to have the puppy. We had live policy development and feedback for the closing, emergency regulations, and then the reopening. So if you look back at the calendar, that first few months, it was somebody from EEC almost every day. And they would come and say, this is what we're thinking. And then Donna Danette would say, that's not going to work. And let me tell you why. And they said, okay, well, what would, so the solutions base was really part of the hallmark of the 9:30 call. We had many 9:30 callers who learned about jobs, got jobs, changed roles. The early childhood agenda is a direct result of the 9:30 call. And one of the first questions Mo Barboza, our facilitator, asked is, can you build community online? And what do you think I told him? We could. And I think it was a fair question. But to have over 1,000 people give input to the early childhood agenda on Zoom, and we have moved to events, including one right here in Floral Park last May. And then we've seen other states organizing town halls. So Georgia, Oklahoma, Connecticut, Wisconsin, and Florida. All right, Marissa, I'm going to go to you. Anything happening in chat we should know about?
So Deborah Nealon Keegan put in the chat, one of my favorite memories of the 9:30 call was when I called Amy to ask if issues pertinent to school-age children would be included on the call. And her response was, sure, do you want to be a guest speaker next week? This call has been inclusive and non-assuming from the beginning, allowing us all a safe space to be able to speak our voice, whether as a guest presenter or as an anonymous voice in the chat. And then thanks everyone, keep moving on. I think that just perfectly describes the 9:30 call and sort of the environment that we all have created together.
Wonderful to see all these bright and shining faces. And doesn't Strategies for Children, hasn't this community made us proud? I loved Secretary Tutwiler's comments about building community. That's very powerful, and it's what's been happening. So we're going to keep it up.
I want to just share a few more slides, and then we are so grateful for all the videos and testimonials that people shared.
Hi, everybody. I'm State Senator Jason Lewis. I'm the Senate Chair of the Education Committee, and some of you probably know me from several appearances I've made on the 9:30 call over the years. I'm just in awe of Amy O'Leary and all of you who've been participating on the 9:30 call for years now. You all have been instrumental in making the case for passage of the Common Start Bill and for making transformative new investments in early education and childcare here in Massachusetts. We've come a long way over the last few years. We know we still have a lot of work to do to support high quality, affordable early education and care for all of our children and families. And I very much look forward to continuing our work together.
I'm Christy Mallon from the Home for Little Wanderers.
And I'm Aditi Subramaniam from the Massachusetts Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children.
Reflecting on the 9:30 call, the word connection is top of mind.
The call started at a time when we were unable to safely connect in the physical sense.
5 years later, our worry is more about humanity's ability to connect in the intangible sense.
We're disconnected today in so many ways, but the 9:30 call continues.
We are still holding ourselves together in the collective.
And this reminds the both of us of the words of the Sikh activist Valerie Kaur. I quote, "So I close my eyes and reach my hand out in the dark, and I find your hand and yours and yours. There are thousands of us, millions of us, who are awake to our connectedness, awake to our humanity, awake to love, and willing to risk ourselves for it, always centering babies, young children, and their families." Thank you.
I just want to get to the gratitude, and then we're going to open it up. So, right on cue, I'm going to cry. Can't read it. Mary, read it.
Okay.
Or somebody else read it.
Can people hear me? Marissa, can you hear me? Okay, gratitude. For the love, vulnerability, can-do problem-solving, innovation, kindness, compassionate spirit that has become the hallmark of the 9:30 call. For every single 9:30 caller, from first-time callers to long-time listeners, every guest who joined us and often fit one 1 hour of content into 27 minutes, sometimes less. Every elected and appointed official who always said yes. And Zoom?
Zoom, we gotta thank Zoom. I can read this. Our funders, as an independent nonprofit advocacy organization, we don't accept state or federal funding for any of our work. We are funded by philanthropic foundations, grants, and individual donors. We want to call out the W. Clement and Jesse V. Stone Foundation, especially Sarah Slaughter and everyday caller Brian Dixon for supporting the case study. We know how important case studies are in our 25-year history. And we also want to thank Minna Jung for her incredible, thoughtful, beautiful way of capturing the 4 years of the 930 call in writing. And Tanya Lazar, who is thrilled that I'm calling her out, is our graphic designer who has been with Strategies since
23 years.
23 years. So for your expertise and collaborative spirit in designing the case study and everything else for SFC. And can we also give it up for Neri Garcia? We would not be where we are today in communications without your work, Neri. So I just want to publicly thank you along with everybody else. So thank you, Neri. Our team is incredible. So let's have them all stand up. We got Marissa on the phone. Marissa, we have Titus, we have Jay Leese and Marge, of course, in the back, and Neri. All right, I'm going to show one more video and then I'm going to ask two more videos, and then I'm going to ask folks on the call to come live and folks sitting in the audience to come live.
Good morning. My name's Lucas. I work at Acre Family Childcare in the beautiful city of Lowell. When these calls began, the field was scared, confused, and uncertain about the future. And there were plenty of calls that were filled with questions and very few answers, or calls where frustrations spilled over into less than productive comments. And this was all part of the process and the growing pains of not just responding to COVID, but where we were as a field. And to see this group now, confident, clear-eyed, and with a more unified view of the path ahead of us is amazing. And it's not just amazing that the calls continued for 5 years, it's amazing that it's remained as topical, inspiring, relevant, and optimistic. Congratulations to the entire Strategies team for making these calls happen, and thank you to all of the callers that give life to these critical conversations. As for the future of these calls, I believe deeply in 930 forever.
We will do merch line of that. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We'll turn things over to folks on screen. If you want to share anything, we know we have tons in the chat. We'll save the chat and send everyone in the chat. We have the raffles for the mugs, but I'm not going to tell them that. Tom Weber, what do you got to say? I see you there, Tom.
Amy, I'm so grateful to you, not just because what you do through the 930 call, but for just being such a great role model to all of us and for all the contributions that you've made. And to this call, I'd just say it's as relevant today as it was 5 years ago. It's a space that we can all enter into, bring ourselves as we are. We don't have to pretend, to be courageous. We can acknowledge that we are scared and vulnerable. We can come with our questions. We can come with our best answers, but we continue to come for each other and with each other. And as a result of that, we've been able to weather some incredible storms over the course of the last 5 years. And the present moment, which of course feels as daunting as ever, is one that I feel quite optimistic that we'll be able to meet the moment because of the example of what we've seen through this call over the course of the last 5 years.
We see you, Somerville. What do you got?
I just wanted to speak on behalf of the city of Somerville and Somerville Public Schools, who we are all here today. And I just want to say, I feel like this call has been the glue to the work that I can do for our providers in Somerville. We have 22 family childcare providers and 26 centers in Somerville, and none of them can make the call at 9:30 because it's just a tricky time of day. And so being able to be a part of sharing all of these amazing resources and information to them is really a key to my role in particular, but in general, all the work we do in Somerville. So thank you all so much. And we have great Amy's in our state. Go Amy's.
That's right. Thank you so much, Ashley, and to Somerville, and to everybody who hosted a watch party, and to everybody who joined us on the screen, and to everybody who joined us here in person. We're so thrilled to be. Yes, one more for the owl. And now for our sponsor, we'd like to thank Edward Street for these owl camera. I also said a lot of things forgetting that we were recording, so we may have to go back, Mary, and pick some things out. So we are going to say goodbye to our friends on Zoom. Tomorrow's Friday. You will not be here, but we will continue over next week. We have a great lineup, including the Advocacy Network, our cohort 4. We're going to have our first, our first Zooms interviews with our Advocacy Network cohort 4. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the technical difficulties you see. Now we have a lot of plus delta for our next live broadcast. And we will continue the after party here in the Saxe Room of the Worcester Public Library. But thank you for joining us today. And we will see you next time on the 9:30 call.